Stoic Empire, women never forget a man who commands himself. There are men who pass through her life like noise, loud for a moment, then gone. And there are men who leave silence when they walk away, the kind of silence that speaks louder than their presence ever did. A woman never forgets a man like that. Not because he impressed her, but because he centered her world for a moment without ever trying to. Every man can talk, chase, promise, and give. But few carry the kind of energy that lingers, the kind that makes her wonder what she felt and why she still feels it when he's no longer there. It's not about looks, charm, or money. It's about frequency, calmness, self-control, and the invisible authority of a man who governs himself. That's what makes a man unforgettable, not his words, but his weight. Not his passion, but his discipline. Not his need, but his restraint. He doesn't demand attention, he commands it. He doesn't explain his worth, he embodies it. He doesn't react to chaos, he absorbs it, transforms it, and returns stillness. The truth is, what stays in a woman's mind is not a man's appearance, but the way she felt safe in his energy. In a world of impulsive emotions, to meet a man whose peace can't be shaken feels like standing before something ancient. She remembers the man who didn't try to fix her, but remained unshaken while she fell apart. She remembers the man who didn't argue to win, but let silence prove his point. She remembers the man who didn't chase, because his value didn't require movement. The less he needed her attention, the more she was drawn to him. Not because he played games, but because he didn't. He knew attention is currency, and he never spent it cheaply. He didn't offer himself where he wasn't respected. He didn't give presents where it wasn't earned. He knew the world responds to the man who chooses himself first. It's not arrogance, it's alignment. It's not detachment, it's dignity. He knows that if his peace costs someone's comfort, that's a fair trade. Because peace is expensive, and only men who've lost themselves before understand its worth. When a man reaches this level of calm, he doesn't need to talk about being alpha or strong. He doesn't announce value, he carries it. He's not performing stillness, he is stillness. That's why she never forgets him. She might move on, but part of her never stops comparing. Every man after him feels lighter, because they lack gravity. She remembers not the color of his eyes, but the peace behind them. Not his words, but how she felt near him, seen, but not owned, understood, but never analyzed. Wanted, but never chased. That's the stoic energy of the unforgettable man, the one who carries his world within, and never lets anyone shake it. He gives when he chooses, not when asked. He speaks when words are needed and keeps silence sacred. He loves without losing himself and walks away without hate. To her, he becomes a mirror, he reflects what she lacks and awakens what she's forgotten in herself. Though she may never say it, she will think of him long after he's gone. Because a man who controls himself controls memory. He lives in her mind not through desire, but through discipline. What truly makes a man unforgettable is not how he enters her life, but how he leaves her mind in silence. He doesn't leave chaos behind, he leaves order. He doesn't break her peace, he reminds her what peace feels like. And that reminder lingers far longer than touch ever could. He doesn't dominate her emotions, he stabilizes them. He doesn't take, he anchors. Every woman, deep inside, searches for stillness. When she finds it in a man, it feels like home. And that's what she remembers, the home she felt inside his presence. She remembers the man who didn't rush to fill silence, who was comfortable letting the moment breathe. She remembers how he didn't try to impress, because his existence was already enough. How his calm made her question her chaos. That's why she never truly lets go, because he wasn't just another experience, he was a lesson. He showed her that control is more attractive than charm, direction is sexier than attention. And peace is more magnetic than power. When he looked at her, it wasn't through lust but understanding. When he spoke, it wasn't to convince but to clarify. When he listened, he didn't prepare to respond, he perceived. He didn't need validation, he was validation. Because everything about him said, I already know who I am. That's what unsettles her long after he's gone, that she met a man who couldn't be controlled, because he was already in control of himself. He didn't need to prove manhood or argue for respect. His calm was proof enough. And in a world where men chase attention, a man like that feels sacred. He's the one she can't categorize. The one who never explains himself. The one who disappears without noise, but whose silence fills every space she enters. The paradox, the man who needs nothing from her ends up being the one she can't stop thinking about. Because his detachment isn't rejection, it's mastery. The ability to be fully present and fully free at once. She will test that freedom, question it, doubt it, try to shake it. But every test only proves how rare it is. Every time he stays calm, she learns again why she can't forget him. He becomes a standard, a quiet, living reminder of real masculinity, not noise, not ego, but grounded energy. She'll try to replace it, but replacements feel hollow. You can't imitate something that isn't performed, you can only feel it, and she did. He may not talk about purpose, but everything he does is purpose. He may not speak about boundaries, but his actions draw them. He may not call himself a leader, but people move differently around him, more aware, more respectful. That's the energy of a man who doesn't fight for control, because control already lives within him. Women remember that, the rare calm of a man who doesn't bend yet never breaks others. A man who isn't loud, but whose silence shifts the air. He doesn't build attraction through intensity, he builds it through consistency. He's not addicted to reaction but to composure. He's not moved by how she feels about him, he's moved by how deeply he's mastered himself. In her world of emotion, he was the still point, the quiet strength, the man whose peace didn't depend on her. Because in the end, she doesn't remember what he said, she remembers how he didn't flinch. She remembers his gaze, not to claim, but to understand. The silence after arguments, how his calm made her anger sound small. The gravity of his absence, how even without him, the world felt slower, heavier, quieter. That's the mark of the Stoic man, he teaches without preaching, leaves without bitterness, loves without attachment. He moves like nature, slow, certain, unhurried. The man who rushes loses control, the one who controls himself moves with eternity. Every story ends. But some men never leave the story they were part of. Their energy stays, not like a ghost, but like a compass. A woman may forget the man who entertained her, but she never forgets the man who elevated her. He didn't offer escape, he offered reflection. He showed her peace that no one else could give because it came from him. Once she's seen that peace, every other connection feels restless. He didn't need to make her feel small to appear strong. He didn't need dominance to be respected. He didn't need to control her, he simply controlled himself. That's the quiet dominance of the Stoic man. He influences without forcing. He leads without demanding. He walks away without drama. The power of that exit is eternal. When a man leaves in silence, without anger or games, he leaves a mark that time can't erase. It's not revenge. It's sovereignty. He knows that convincing someone to see his worth means he's already losing alignment. So he lets go, not from weakness, but from wisdom. Not every connection is meant to last, some awaken, some teach. The man who learns the lesson doesn't stay bitter, he stays balanced. His heart stays open, but his standards firm. His emotions are felt, but never rule him. He can love deeply and still walk away in peace. That's what makes him unforgettable, the way he turns endings into beginnings. Where others crumble, he rebuilds. Where others beg, he breathes. Where others react, he reflects. He's mastered detachment without indifference, caring without clinging, giving without losing, loving without surrendering his center. When she thinks of him, what she remembers is how he never tried to own her energy, only align with it. He could be fully present with her, and fully at peace without her. That kind of man is freedom disguised as flesh. He walks unhurried, unimpressed, unchained, not because he feels nothing, but because he understands everything. He's not afraid of silence, he becomes it. Not afraid of loneliness, he uses it. Not afraid of loss, he accepts it as growth. That's what makes him dangerous, not aggression, not dominance, but peace that cannot be disturbed. She will carry that image long after emotion fades. She'll remember how he never lowered his voice to be heard, never raised his tone to feel powerful, never lost himself proving his place. Because he never needed permission to be a man, he simply was. That can't be replaced, forgotten, or unseen. The Stoic man walks through noise untouched. His silence speaks louder than desire. His absence feels heavier than others' presence. His stillness commands where others chase. He's not chasing memory, but he becomes one. Because everyone who crosses his path carries a trace of that presence. Not as longing, but as respect. Not as fantasy, but as standard. That's legacy, to be remembered not for what you took, but for what you revealed. You revealed what control looks like. You revealed what peace feels like. You revealed what real strength sounds like: silence, discipline, purpose. When her world grows loud, she will close her eyes and remember the man who didn't shout to be seen, but simply stood, unshaken, grounded, eternal. That is the kind of man she never forgets. Crossed Swords Stoic Empire.